Saddam had not attacked Kuwait, Airlift had not happened.
मेरे पास एक अच्छी स्क्रिप्ट नहीं है, मैं कुछ नहीं कर सकता हूँ.
Nobody wants to take a bet on a small film.
You know how I know Sujay? So I said, yeah, I'm a new director. नहीं, ये एक्टर बनना है.
ऐसा भी हुआ है. बहुत बार हुआ है. दोस्ती भी किया है बहुत सारे पिक्चर. When I did Namaste, Akshay never met only. उसको 2 लाइन सुनाया तो people was happy with it. Writing doesn't get that kind of importance as it should.
The King Khan. First of all, thanks for kind of being here.
My pleasure.
Just generally want to understand, you know, if you can answer this one question, then we'll go back to your life. Screenwriting, जो हम कहते हैं, what does that exactly mean?
What is screenwriting?
Yeah.
Screenwriting is you write a film which is going to be seen on the screen. That's the simplest explanation.
Right.
But generally people have this whole confusion कि script क्या होता है, screenplay क्या होता है. You know, they all have roles. So what usually a screenplay is what you do is you break down a story into scenes. You know, basically have a scene, you completely explain the entire scene.
Right.
Then you add dialogues to it.
Right.
You know, the whole dialogue. Actually, the whole process together, but the entire thing is known as script, where you have a story which is broken down, elaborated, and you know broken down into scenes. You know, and that whole thing is you add dialogues to it,
right,
and that becomes the whole script.
Right.
So, screenwriter's job is to actually put it all together.
Right.
You know, only in India, what happens is that most of us are, you know, we don't really have a grasp of languages, you know, in various ways. Like I'm a fraud, this thing, like I know English, I think in English. So I always need a dialogue writer in Hindi to actually, you know, put those dialogues in Hindi. I write in English, so whatever dialogues are there in Hindi, if you need some colloquial flavor and all those things, which I will not be able to do, which I wish I could.
So a script is the same as screenplay? You would say that?
Screenplay is part of the script. That's what I'm saying. It's basically what? Story, screenplay, dialogues together brings a script.
Got it.
What you see in the bound script is that.
Got it. And what is, if you can just tell me in stages, you know, so like first you get a thought, so that probably makes it into a one line, then you make that into a concept. Is there a process that you follow?
It depends entirely on the demand. Like if somebody is giving you an idea, you know, then you go back and you know you kind of develop that idea into. If somebody will give you 2 lines ka idea, you go back and develop that into a storyline, you know, basic storyline which is like 1 pager. Just figure out how kahan shuru hota hai, kahan khatam hota hai, you know, that kind of thing. Then when you agreed upon the storyline, ko ye work hota hai, then you go and kind of elaborate the whole thing into a step outline where you kind of start developing it, you know, into scene by, like not scene by scene, but sequence wise. Ki ye hoga, fir ye hoga, fir ye hoga, fir ye hoga. And then you, once, generally when everybody feels that this works fine, you go and start writing the screenplay. That's one way of doing it. You can also actually straight away go into a screenplay without actually having any idea of where the story is going. Which always works if you're doing a film for yourself or, you know, which is where you are the director, producer, nobody else is involved. But otherwise, others want to know ki kahan ja raha hai story, you know, kind of things. Like I'll tell you an example, Namaste London. I was given a 2-line idea. Ek ladki hai, UK based hai, and her parents are a little worried about her because she's completely westernized, has into all these things, and they by tricking her, take her to India to see India, and they kind of get her married off to one guy. And how the girl turns the tables on them, you know, she kind of turns the tables on them when she comes back to London. Itna hi tha. Now you have to figure out how you will do this, you know, how you figure this whole thing out, and so we start working out on that whole story of kaun hai ladki, how do you create that character, her parents, what happened, and then you have the whole thing is of how does she manage to trick them, you know, you have to figure those things out. Wo London, wahan pe she got trapped into saying yes to a guy, you know, her parents kind of dhamki dete hai, emotional blackmail karte hai, and she finally gets it done, and she doesn't let them register the marriage and comes here, and then she kind of tells them, boss, this is not acceptable anyway, so whatever it is, bye bye, I'm going to live my own life. So the boy who's come with her, the groom, Akshay, he's completely lost. He has no idea what to do. So then it's a story of how he now tries to win her over or stay back and do things to, you know, hang on till the end, you know, what he does. So that's the story. Now in that also what happens is, after you write a first half, you know, you have the story which begins with this girl and a family and how she's brought to India and she's tricked and she gets married. उसके बाद we had some 4 versions of the second half. सब कुछ था उसमें, बहुत कुछ था. एक में टेरर का भी एक प्लॉट था, इलीगल इमिग्रेंट्स का भी एक प्लॉट था. अल्टीमेटली सब कुछ निकाल के we just made one simple straightforward storyline. So that's a choice. You make a choice out like that, you know.
And would you say that you have a certain rough timeline, like how long does it take for you to write an entire screenplay?
Rough timeline, like anybody who wants you to write a script will want it tomorrow. So that's always a problem.
Yeah.
And you have to sometimes tell them, boss, hota nahi hai aisa. But otherwise, I think 3 months is what they will expect to give one draft of it. You know, one draft of the screenplay.
Is that a good time, but?
Sometimes it's not. So sometimes it works, sometimes it won't work. But it's a good way to good start, because you know that at least 3 months deadline, you also will kind of, you know, you have a deadline. You work towards it. Maybe that draft will be good enough. You can work on that draft again. So it might go on. But there can be movies which can take on for a year also.
You know why I'm asking you is because, like, when I was an AD and when I was kind of venturing into film and stuff like that, you always heard of the bigger writers saying कि मैं 1.5 साल से लिख रहा हूँ, मैं 2 साल लिख रहा हूँ. But would you say that has got crunched now?
No, that still happens. That still happens.
But would you say that adds value to a film?
See, there is no such thing. I mean, you can't be sure that because you wrote for 1.5 years, the script will be great, you know. You can write a script in 3 weeks, it will be terrific also. You never know. So that will depend on the script. Sometimes what happens 1.5 years mein, इतना सारा चीज़ घुसा देता है स्क्रिप्ट के अंदर, because so many films have come and so many things, you end up losing perspective of the script. वो भी होता है, एक risk है इसमें. So it works both ways.
I was actually going to ask you this. So when you said you were writing for, you know, Namaste London, this was about a decade ago, probably more.
Yeah, 2007 it came out.
So when you were writing for, say, a certain character, do you keep the new age people in mind? Like if you were writing Namaste London today, the characters would be reacting in a very different way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a lot of research also you say that goes into, it's not just creative. You need to know कि अच्छा ये character आज की देर में ऐसा सोचेगा.
हाँ, होता है. That comes naturally, because when you start writing the character जो develop करेगा, you will know कि यार this is how they are going to be. Like when I wrote it also at that point of time also, like there's a basic idea that she will have a personality of Katrina, which she was not even cast at that time. We had not even thought. लेकिन ऐसे होगा, मतलब एक अंग्रेज जैसी लड़की होगी, वो ऐसी होगी, kind of thing. It's a great thing that she only came in the role, which made it kind of.
So it must be also adding when suppose you are writing for a big director and you know कि ये मैं अक्षय कुमार के लिए लिख रहा हूँ. Is that a benefit?
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's a little tricky because you don't know, you can't do certain things. लगता है. But actually, Namaste, what happened was that. When I wrote it, I thought we'll make him not do any of the Akshay Kumar kind of stuff that we have seen so far. You know? Make him very simple. If he's the film also, he doesn't do anything. But you still have to keep those elements. You know, एक तो बीच में घुसाना पड़ेगा, because you will have to, because there are scenes in which he becomes thoda heroic. Like there is one rugby sequence which he does, you know, where he becomes a hero, and then that India speech, that patriotic speech that he gives. So those are moments that you give him. Otherwise, you see the character is very normal. He's a regular guy. He doesn't do anything. He just hangs on till the end of the film, you know, doesn't trying to not to do much.
No, and that worked there. That worked really well.
That's what. But that doesn't work for every film. So it depends on film to film. You know.
But it's also okay to kind of write without any actors in mind.
Actually, it's better to write without an actor in mind, I feel, because then you are more free to write it, no? And then you present to the actor. Then when the actor comes on board, it depends on the actor. Sometimes you then add certain things to the actors, you know, actor's role. So I think I always feels better to write without having an idea of the actor. In that.
If I just have to go through the list, which is, I'm not going to read all of them. I've pulled out my favorites, and it's a huge list as well. So going back, you have Singh is King, Mission Istanbul, Shootout at Lokhandwala, Salam-e-Ishq, Jhankar Beats to start with, Zinda, D-Day, one of my all-time favorites, which I told you about at one point, Chef, Kahaani 1 and 2, then Namaste England, Airlift, again one of my favorites, and a latter one which is Typewriter. This is like a huge, I mean I've just pulled out the best. ये 3 गुना ज़्यादा था, लेकिन मैंने क्यों ये वाले निकाले, because this has comedy, this has action, this has drama, and it's also ended with horror.
Yeah.
So which is brilliant. So I just want to understand that how do you do this? So is there something which just comes naturally, or you pick, or like how does this happen?
Most of them I wasn't picking, because I was just working with people I know, and whatever they were doing, I was happy to do with them.
Right.
The only thing I was always sure I can't do is horror. So बहुत पहले मुझे I think Ragini MMS was offered to me. I think I told you this also.
Right.
Ragini MMS was offered to me.
Right.
And I think Tanvir Bookwala offered to me. And I told him boss ये मेरा cup of tea नहीं है, मुझे horror समझ में नहीं आता है. I watch very few horror. I like somehow the horror film, but I don't watch too many. I don't know how to write it.
Yeah.
वो jump scare सब करने मुझे नहीं आता है.
Yeah.
I find them very also. I find horror films too dark for my this thing. So I don't
Right.
watch too many of them. So generally, but only I did typewriter only. मतलब वो भी
Recently.
बहुत ही horror भी नहीं है. मतलब it's very
Like a psychological.
हाँ horror है लेकिन it is more the Spielberg kind of horror. मतलब बहुत बेस बच्चे लोग हैं.
तुलसी राम से नहीं है वो.
हाँ तुलसी राम से नहीं है. उसको नहीं है. So it's a very simple horror kind of thing, you know. That's also because we two are doing it together, and so we could jam, and both of us like certain horror films, so we did it. That's all. Otherwise, I don't. But I don't pick and choose anything. I really haven't, because that kind of option tha nahi, because I was always working with the same people. If you look at my filmography, they are the same people. It's Sujoy and Nikhil and Raja and all those people. All of them the same thing. So whatever they were doing, I was happy to do it. वो अच्छा बने, बुरा बने, जो भी, because it is. See, at the end of the day, it's also the people you're working with. You like working with them. It just never feels like work.
Yeah.
So you enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
So इसके लिए.
No, but I'm just trying to understand. So as a writer, as a creative person, do you have any genre that really excites you, that you'll just quickly jump to that, because now that you've done so much?
Now or पहले से?
Both, maybe पहले से also and now also. Like is
no, पहले तो I was like a भूखा ना. You go to pick up like a kid in a toy store. ना मतलब सब कुछ जो मिला सब करने के तैयार था. मतलब बाद में you realize कि certain things you can't do or certain things you like to do. I like thrillers. I like even love stories.
Okay.
But I don't get to do much love stories nowadays. You know, you don't.
ज़्यादा वैसे बनते भी नहीं.
बनते भी नहीं है. तो nowadays people generally come to me for thrillers because they think thriller ही लिखता रहता है आधा time. तो they think thrillers करने के लिए. So I don't have any such thing. I like doing everything, but I like a bit of humor and everything, slight humor, and which is my nature also. I kind of crack faltu jokes sometimes, so I do that. So I do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I like doing big stuff also, but if you ask me to watch it, like I like Woody Allen kind of films. You know, I like those very
The
intimate
humor,
films. Yeah, I can really slight comedy which is there. I like all those.
Woody Allen has a very different type of comedy.
Yeah. So I like those kind of humor. I like those kind of humor. But I also like sarcastic humor, satire. So those things I had done satire, but not on film so much. Actually, I used to do a comic strip for the newspapers, which was complete satire.
Yeah.
Making fun of everything and everywhere. You know.
No, so nice. You brought this up. So I want to kind of go back to that how did it all start? So just
my writing journey.
Generally, I mean, are you from Bombay? How did you get into this whole?
No, I was born and brought up in Bombay. There is no film connection in my family, except for one uncle who was a big film buff, who used to buy all the film magazines which was available in English and Malayalam. So I used to read those things from childhood. So you really thought of much, but you get excited about reading those kind of things. So my initial thing was all those magazines and also that's how we got into. But film was never in my scheme of things or सोचने के लिए नहीं था कोई था ही नहीं मतलब except one neighbor of mine a friend whose father was an extra in film so he used to you know तो उसके साथ एक बार बचपन में फिल्मिस्तान स्टूडियो में गया था to see some shooting I think it was हम किससे कम नहीं or something कुछ तो चल रहा था कुछ तो shooting चल रहा था so that's all I had no other film connection so I was more into writing I used to like writing so even when I was 12 years old also I started writing stories you know kind of stuff but I see writing का था but I never did much of writing beyond that मतलब कुछ पता नहीं था कि क्या करूँ लेके you don't know because nobody in your family has done it they are also you don't know what to do with writing कहाँ लिखेगा मतलब कैसे लिखेगा so at one point I wanted to do ads में जाऊँ क्या copywriter बनूँ क्या ऐसा सोचा था but then I the thing was you know what got me excited was I was in after my college I got into marketing and there was one boy who was working with us and he one day came and told me boss you know this is not what I want to do I want to be an actor and he showed me his portfolio which he spent some $5,000-6,000 you know at that time and he was shot all that and he was not a very rich guy it's a young normal guy who's come from Bhopal or someplace and he was doing all these things and I look at him and I felt यार ये actor बनने आया है मतलब actor बनने का 100 to 1 chance मुश्किल है इसको बन भी पाएगा कि नहीं पाएगा मुझे तो सिर्फ राइटर बनना है आई नॉट बीन ट्राइंग फॉर इट मैं कुछ कर भी नहीं रहा हूँ राइटिंग करने के लिए सो दैट काइंड ऑफ गॉट मी ट्रिगर्ड एंड आई सेड क्या करूँ राइटिंग के लिए तो आई वेंट एंड जॉइंड केसी कॉलेज फॉर जर्नलिज्म सो दैट्स हाउ आई बिकम अ जर्नलिस्ट So I got into journalism. I ended up being in Times of India, you know, and there is where I met Sujoy.
Right.
Sujoy was actually one of our mutual friend Rajiv Masand ka dost tha. So हम लोग we became friends, you know, we got to know each other. And he actually the one who actually first got me into, you know, yaar, you write some dialogues for me, you know. He was doing Jankar beats, and that's how I got into writing. So he used to come to my house, or I used to meet him in his house, and we used to jam together, and कुछ थोड़ा कुछ dialogue वालोग लिख दिया. So we did that. That was my first this thing, and that time also I was working with Time, so I didn't think much of it.
Yeah.
I didn't even think much. I didn't even take Sujoy seriously. बोला ये क्या फिल्म बनाएगा, तो कुछ किसी को असिस्ट भी नहीं किया, कुछ सीखा भी नहीं, क्या फिल्म बनाएगा.
उसका भी एक स्टोरी है, we'll come to that.
वो कोई कभी फिल्म किया भी नहीं है उसने, तो ये क्या फिल्म बनाएगा. तो ऐसा दोस्त है, कर लेते हैं, दोस्ती में कर लेते हैं. And I never went to shoot also. I used to I never went to shoot also. तो एक बार I remember Juhi telling me, यार तेरा पिक्चर है, तू आया भी नहीं एक बार भी, kind of thing. Then one day he showed me the rough cut of the film. Sujoy, he just showed me the rough cut, and that's when I was blown.
Yeah.
Shit, man, what is this?
Yeah.
What is it done? You know.
Yeah.
तब तक मैंने कभी सीरियस लिया ही नहीं था the whole thing. That actually kind of changed my whole perception of cinema. You know, shit, this is what it is. You know.
No. To come to that, I remember watching Jankar beats in a cinema hall, and if I'm not wrong, this is the one where they pay tribute to R.D. Burman, right?
Yeah,
oh my God, it was aesthetic.
Yeah.
The crowd. I mean, you know, with complete non-actors, he has these 6. Even those slightly funny takes, they were hitting the right spot.
Yeah.
So I remember that coming out and feeling like wow, and it was a very different type of film.
Yeah.
You know, so that pretty much was like a start to. So Sujoy का मैं बता रहा था, like you said कि क्या करेगा, assist नहीं किया. So I have this story. I don't know how far that's true. That I was an assistant myself, and I was struggling with Nagesh Kuknur. You know, so we were sitting at a cafe. And it was more like an interview. He's taking my interview because I want to be an assistant with him. And there walks Sujoy Ghosh after Jankar. So I have been wanting to work with him also. तो मेरे लिए तो बहुत बड़ा था कि अब नागेश कुकनूर भी है, इनके साथ भी करना है, Sujoy Ghosh भी है. So you know, and Sujoy casually walks up and these two know each other. And suddenly Nagesh looks at me and says, "You know how I know Sujoy?" So I said, "Yeah, I mean you guys are director." नहीं, ये actor बनने आया था. He's saying,
He's news to me. I don't know.
ये एक्टर बनने आया था, ये एक्टर नहीं बना, अब मेरे से बड़ा डायरेक्टर बन गया है, अब मैं इसके साथ स्ट्रगल कर रहा हूँ. So it was a fun moment we had there, and that's how I kind of met Sujoy.
So when I met him also, I didn't have any clue what a screenplay looks like. When you asked me what is screenwriting, I didn't have a clue what a screenplay looks like. I was to do a film page in Bombay Times, which was like there was only one film buff at that point of time. So they told me, you do a film page. So I used to do interviews with actors, but I had no really intention of getting into films. Sujoy is the one because of whom I said, "I can do it, you know, this is what I'm doing." But actually, interestingly, you know what happened also before that, I had a brief this thing with cinema, which was Hera Fairy. I don't think I told you about this Hera Fairy. So there's a Malayalam film called Ramji Rao Speaking. And they were trying to make this in Hindi called as Hera Fairy. So Priyadarshan and Neeraj Vora were trying to make it. So there's a friend of mine, Vinod Ranganath. He had called me one day, told, "Yaar, inko na, they want to make Ramji Rao into a Hindi film. Will you help them with the dialogues? Because the film is fully dialogue driven. Yeah. The comedy is in the dialogues, you know, more than anything else. Yeah. So those Malayalam dialogues had to be turned into Hindi. You know, how do you kind of thing. So will you do it? तो मैं बोला ठीक है, I'll do it. So I met Priyan. Priyan I knew anyway because of my Times of India connection. I used to meet him. So and I met Neeraj also. So I got that whole video tape. I think that was video VCR था इधर, video tapes ही था. वो देख के तो I used to help, you know, my wife used to help me out to do those dialogues in Hindi. So we ended up doing the entire dialogue draft of that film, which actually won awards also. मतलब for Neeraj and all, won awards also. So that was my first brush with. After that, Priyan again made me do 2-3. Priyan and Neeraj both made me 2-3 other films. But I got bored of it. मुझे ये कुछ मजा नहीं आता. मतलब ये क्या है, डायलॉग बैठ के हिंदी में करो, एक सीन देखो, चेंज करो. तो I later नहीं यार मेरे से नहीं मजा आता. I don't want to do any more of these things. तो एक briefly एक हुआ था. But Sujoy is the one actually, you know, that Jankar's first screening, that first rough cut I saw, is where I really understood the power of you know, you being contributing to cinema. It's not watching cinema, but you being part of it. You know, that's when you really kind of start. And he kept telling me, "Yaar, chhod na tu, chhod, aaja, come, let's do it." But I was not too sure. I was, अच्छा खासा job है. Why should I leave this? Should I leave this kind of? So it took me another 3-4 years before I actually said to Times of India, "Bye, I'm going out. I'm trying to do some. I'm getting offers to do films. अगर चल गया तो ठीक है, नहीं चल गया तो वापस आ जाऊंगा मैं, kind of thing. So then it went on. So
do you get like a high or a kick, you know, like sometimes I used to get that when I used to make short films, that you know you have thought of something and you write it and then somebody goes and executes it and then you watch it on big screen saying fuck, you know what, I wrote this. So is that like a good high?
हाँ, वो हाई भी होता है, लो भी होता है.
ये मैंने नहीं लिखा था.
हाई होता है, शिट मैं लिखा था क्या, वो भी होता है. वो इमोशन दोनों तरफ जाता है. अरे फक मैंने क्या लिखा है, ये बोलते शिट ये मैंने लिखा था क्या, दोनों होता है. तो दोनों चलता रहता है.
No, also I mean coming from there, you know, it's also your vision. You know, I mean of course you're following a director's vision, but do you think that more than likely it does get lost in?
Initially it used to get lost because initially I didn't know this thing so much. So because initially when you're writing, so you will do whatever the director tells you. So I had one experience where the script kept changing because director had one outlook of the film. He wanted certain Hollywood films to be included, those scenes to be included. वो सब आता था. Then actors came on board. Then actors had, for actors को खुश करने के लिए there were scenes written. Some suddenly the hero who's a normal guy suddenly has a six pack and he's, you know, taking off his clothes and fighting. वो सब पहले बहुत पहले हुआ था. Those at that time समझ में नहीं आता था. Because you lost objectivity. कि you're keeping on adding things into your script because, you know, of various demands.
Yeah.
When the film comes out, you're like shit. It's completely gone out of your hand. It's a nice idea, nice thought, nice plot you had. Now it is completely उसका पूरा रायता फैल गया है, you know, kind of thing. That happens. That used to happen initially. अब तो नहीं होता है. अब तो उतना मतलब you are little more, you know, you at least voice it because you know, you understand now. पहले मान नहीं पड़ता कि you are so excited about the film ना, तुम करते हाँ ठीक है ये भी करना ये भी करते हैं. तो you lost objectivity. You are doing whatever director tells, actors tell, or actors through director tells you, you know, those things initially. And also, not even big actors. I'm telling you, smaller actors.
Yeah, I'm just coming to that. I mean, you know, we all face it today with this advent of OTT, for example. Film तो फिर भी studios होते हैं, producers होते हैं. With the, you know, OTT channel and stuff like that, everybody is, because it's their show, you know, they have a perspective on, like even Shashank was saying some time back that, you know, shoot it like this, you know, do this. Then why have you got me? I mean, you know, I'm such a Shashank, आप शशांक को अगर बताओगे कि कैसे करना है, आपको बोलोगे लिखना है. But do you also go through that process?
Sometimes you do. From creative teams.
Yeah.
You do. I mean, there are times when.
But what if it's an absolutely bizarre suggestion?
You have to be polite. I mean, I had one incident where I tell you where I was writing we had done a film and we had actually had a narration happening and all those things happening. And it's about a boy and an animal and so kind of thing. So one guy, creative guy, said, what would have happened if this animal had not come into this boy's life? And what would be his graph? So I was like, just think of it. ये नहीं होता था तो पिक्चर नहीं बनता था.
I was just going to say that.
हाँ, फिल्म ही नहीं बनता था. तो then you be polite. तो my partner, my writing partner will say, यार तू शांत हो जा, कुछ बोलना मत. So then you have to give them example. So you have to be very polite and tell them, boss, look, the film won't happen. That's why, you know, if Saddam had not attacked Kuwait, Airlift had not happened. You know, it's like that.
Yeah.
So these things happen once in a while. These things, like somebody will say, ये जो पेज 24 में हो रहा है ना, ये पेज 46 में आना चाहिए, और या तो उल्टा बोलेगा 46 में. तो हाउ डू यू काउंट दैट? नो, यू हैव टू, इट्स अ ऑर्गेनिक थिंग ना, यू कांट जस्ट से टेक्निकली कि ये पेज में ये हो, यहाँ पे होना चाहिए.
You know, पेज से मुझे याद आया कि 3-4 years back we were dealing with one of the platforms, and I used to work in a production house and I was dealing with the platform. So in our agreement with the platform, so if I'm doing 10 episodes, no, we say okay 10 episodes है, approximate 25 minutes duration है. They said page count will be 250 pages or more. So and when we actually got to writing it, now it's the creative team making changes. This thing हटा. तो वो 230 पे आया. हमको सिर्फ बिलिंग के लिए 20 पेज ऐसे कुछ लिख के देना पड़ा क्योंकि मेरे अग्रीमेंट में 250 पेज लिखा है. And the creative person only telling me that listen, I'll approve it. We'll shoot for 230 pages, but because my commercial is at 250 ना, तू 20 पेज कुछ भी लिख दे, मैं approve कर दूँगा. What the fuck are you saying? Like
what are you doing? I mean, what kind of writing is that?
Yeah, you know.
But so, you know, in script anyway, you have a page count. You know that your film's length is like 120 minutes. So you roughly around, you know, it should be within that 100 to 110 pages का script होना चाहिए. ज़्यादा होएगा तो you know you are in trouble because, you know.
No, I'm saying that it's the same creative person who's saying that I don't need 250 pages. I can have one page of an action page saying कि इसमें action होगा. वो वैसे ही 5 मिनट जाने वाला है. लेकिन वो एक पेज है. I'm sure you know, na, when you write for action, you don't write 5 minutes of action.
Yeah, you're right.
So, but do you ever go through such bizarre instances of like? I think now because of this whole fear which has come in of a lot of people start feeling that directors, writers take them for a ride. Do you get bound by these weird requirements?
I haven't really had that kind of experience much.
Okay.
But when you told me about this action thing, I just remembered one incident that happened was during, nothing to do with creative teams or anything. In Sing is King, like how you write action now, कितना action लिखेगा ना, लिखने का तो कितना ही लिख सकता है. तो Sing is King पे Akshay's entry is that he is chasing a rooster in the village. Start उसका first scene वो दिखाता है कि वो rooster को भी somebody wants a rooster to be caught, तो rooster पकड़ने भागते हो. वो लिखने के टाइम क्या लिखेगा तुम? He said happy chases the rooster and destroys half the village in the process करके 2 लाइनें हैं. तो then these guys went and shot it and then they came back. उसके बाद देखा हम लोग ने तो बहुत कम डिस्ट्रक्शन हुआ था. तो बोला यार ये तो बहुत कम है, you got to shoot more distractions. तो then I think the EPO सब बोल यार तू तो लिखते है 2 लाइन, so you're telling us to shoot so much,
Yeah, I know.
तो एक्शन कभी ऐसा भी होता है, those kind of thing.
I think action and intimate scenes is always a question.
But action sometimes, if you look at Hollywood films, scripts, they write in detail those actions. I wonder how they do that in so much detail. We do write. I'm not saying we don't write, but they do in so much detail, and the kind of complex action sequences, which is something I really wonder, and I envy them for writing that kind of action. Maybe they sit with the action director and write. I don't know.
Yeah, coming to that, I mean that's one of the things which I've always asked. We look up. Not now maybe, but till about 5-6 years back, I personally would look up at Hollywood films and the way they were written. Even in commercial films, there's a lot of depth that used to be there. Do you think we are moving in that direction, or do you think we are at par, or do you think we still have a lot to learn from them?
No, I think we are pretty much okay. I don't think that's not a problem. Because actually, if you look at them, they are now in their whole Avengers area. They stopped making anything else apart from these big ticket Avengers and Mission Impossibles and all those stuff. There are smaller films happening, which are damn good films. So if you look at it, there are much better films happening in a Korea or a Japan kind of atmosphere than actually in the Hollywood space. And that's why. So I think we are in the same space. I mean, we have good films and bad films. We have films which have a lot of depth, and you have a 12th Fair and Lapata ladies. At the same time, you also have Singham and Singham again and all those things.
But do you think the ratio has changed? Like maybe sometime back, we wanted to make films for films, then eventually they made business. Do you think that ratio has
ratio has changed right now, because right now nobody wants to take a bet on a small film. That is there. See, but the thing is Hollywood also is that Hollywood has a whole world as a market. So they recover monies from somewhere. You sometimes see a film and you wonder, why did they even make? Who's going to watch this film? But they have a market. They somehow recover that money. We don't have. We end up either doing it in India very well, or thoda overseas market hai jahan pe we kind of make money. Otherwise, we don't have any global market. Like I remember watching a film called Cloud Atlas something. It's a big budget film. But मुझे वो समझ में नहीं आया picture के. तो I wondered ये कैसे किसको समझ में आएगा picture? But that is very lavish. But I'm sure they had done their marketing. They know where they're going to get the money from. They could. They do make bad calculations, they're really.
But
otherwise, usually they have a fair idea how much money they'll make in a film.
Coming to writing, and again this is a personal thing that I've realized, that I feel that it all starts from that written word. It's everything that we do. So I could be a director, I could be a producer, लेकिन अगर मेरे पास एक अच्छी script नहीं है, मैं कुछ नहीं कर सकता हूँ. Which is I mean, I don't want to compare again to Hollywood, but I'm just talking about here. I feel that it sometimes gets undervalued. We don't really give that as producers. The writers don't really get that kind of respect. Maybe at your stature we still do. But do you feel that ever, that there needs to be more towards writers?
Yeah, basically you should be. But see, the thing is that everybody will say script important. The least amount of focus goes on the script. Least amount of budget is on the script. Everything is least on the script. Script pe koi nobody ready to put money on the script. Nobody puts money on an idea. They don't want to develop a script. So there is a. So if you really believe script is where the whole thing lies, then you should put your money where your mouth is. Most of them don't do it. Very few. Now still there are production companies who are still doing it. Otherwise, writers and also
Yeah.
writers, because writers are basically, you know, is like showbiz for shy people. So writers सामने आते ही नहीं है ज़्यादा करके, तो they kind of let things happen, you know, in their own this thing. कोई कर रहा है तो कर रहा है, मिल गया तो मिल गया, ठीक है, kind of thing. So I think, but the fact is that writing doesn't get that kind of importance as it should.
Yeah. Because I feel that's what, you know, so once a very famous director on set told me that, you know, I can only solve that much on set, no matter how good a director I am. क्योंकि ये ग्राफ ही अगर नहीं है तो मुझे फिर सब चेंज करना पड़ेगा, which means I'm not using the script. So if the script is strong, like you said, if I work 6-8 months on a script, my 60 days of shooting become fair more easier than me sitting and solving, you know, shit on floor. But I just feel that for me, even when I see it ना, वो है ही नहीं अभी. वो it's we are not giving writers, you know, that
we don't. I say even if you look at a lot of directors, many directors, they hardly mention the writer when they give interviews.
Yeah.
You know that this guy has written it along with me, or you know that he's also part of it. Rarely they mention the writer, the process or anything. सब मैंने किया kind of thing में चलते हैं. Most of them do only that. I'm working on the script. They never tell you that I'm working with this one or that.
You're
one.
right. I'm working on the script.
I'm working on the script. You know, that script is when I got the script and this is. They rarely mention the writer as being important enough to, because it is like they are also. Many of them do write. I'm not saying no, but then you don't acknowledge or appreciate somebody else's work on that script also. Should do that. I think that, I mean, what does you ultimately, film is known by the director.
Exactly.
It's not by the writer. It's known by the director. So what is stopping you from actually giving the writer the credit, you know, for it? But a lot of them do also. I can't say no. Many of them actually do, and they actually, but there are very few. There are very few who do it.
So going back a little bit to Jhankar Beats, what was the journey after that? So the film released, and did you feel like that butterfly, that shit, I wrote this?
नहीं, उस वक्त actually, you know, strangely enough, because I was working ना, तो मुझे I didn't still think of film as a career.
अच्छा.
I didn't think film. I was excited about the film. I saw the film. It was great. You know, you see your name and everything. Although ultimately the film का initially posters में सब when I saw the rough cut, the name was in the front. Then names of last में आया तो थोड़ा disappoint आ रहे यार, नाम तो पीछे है, कोई दिखेगा भी नाम kind of thing. But you're still excited about the film. Kind of thing. So. But after that, I went on with my work. Then another guy who actually was very keen that I get into film for some strange reason, because I don't know why he even thought I was Ram Gopal Verma. He kept telling me, you write a script, you know, and he used to call me to his house and, you know, make me to, you know, work on some ideas, which ultimately didn't happen much, but we kind of, a lot of times, you know, I've been to his house and been there with him for during the whole company schedule and all those things. He used to call me and he wanted to give me ideas to write. So those things happened, but generally I didn't take it that seriously. My whole educational script again came from Sujoy's films only, because Sujoy and I, after Jhankar, worked on a script which was known as Minds Without Fear, which was actually an English script. So that I was involved from the beginning. So I used to see the script being written with him and all that. That's when shit ऐसे लिखते हैं क्या? So till that I had not read a screenplay. So that began the process. So it took 3-4 years for me to. I was doing stuff with him, but I was not really looking at cinema as a career. It's there, I think, in 2004, end of 5 or something, where I decided, okay, now, he kept telling me, just to nikal aaja. And because of him only, I got into Salam Ishq and Chota Lokhand Wala, you know, writing that. And then it became and I still remember, like, when Namaste London came out, and that same, in 2007, that was my first film with Vipul Shah. And Vipul had given 2 hits before that with Atish Kapadia, and they were like a pair. They were like, they were also they done theatre together, and they were a pair. And I was like hoping this film does well, because अगर नहीं चला तो all the blame will come on me, because they were अच्छा खासा pair था उनका, ये कहाँ से बीच में idiot आ गया और कुछ कर दिया, kind of thing. So I was really hoping that film works. And just before Namaste London came, Salam Ishq had come out, and it had not done very well. It had mixed reports, and you know, it was a big film, kind of thing, big film. So I was luckily Namaste London did well. So फिर ठीक था उसके बाद.
And as per you know, when you were writing these films, were you also required to be on set at that point?
Not really. But mine was my screenplay job, so I didn't have to do much of. So I studied dialects in English. So, but after Hindi में जो करता है
So then, but as a dialogue writer, if whoever, so they prefer a writer to be on set.
Some
because-
of them do, some of them don't want. Some of them they'll just tell you on the phone, you know,
Right.
get writers. Some of them do want it, some of them don't.
Right.
But most of it is locked on the page, and then they go for shoot.
Any particular incident you remember which was extremely challenging? For example, you know, probably you are in the middle of a shoot, or the director calls and says that I want to change a particular scene, or I want to kind of change the tone of the scene, and you had to do it on the fly. And then when you did it, it really worked. Do you remember any such?
One thing I remember was that they were shooting London Dreams, and they said, "Yeah, we need a romantic scene between Salman and Asin. क्या करें? So what do you do? Where do you put it, and how do you do that kind of thing?" So that time, you know, I had just gone to London and I had gone to Paris and all those stuff. So I had seen this Eiffel Tower lit up in the night, you know, with glittering light and all those. तो मुझे झट से वो याद आया था. तो बैठ के वो made a whole proposal scene where he's proposing to in front of the Eiffel Tower. वो लिख के डाल दिया and sent it to him. And that's what got shot, and there's a whole song around that. I forgot the song, him and Asin, Salman and Asin. But there's no challenging ऐसा कुछ नहीं, because most of the directors I work with, they log the script before. So very rarely, you know, they have actually gone back and tried to do something during shooting. Most of them.
So what something like this is interesting that you said. So it's almost like an inspiration. You got inspiration.
Yeah. वो तो होता रहता है. तो मतलब you will find some place or something or something, some character also you will find which you might use in some film somewhere.
Yeah.
That happens all the time. Like D-Day. D-Day, you know, I used to go to Calcutta very often because we did Kahaani there and all those Sujoy's. Sujoy के साथ हम लोग जाते रहते थे Calcutta. Used to roam around there. So there was one place, one barber shop, one haircutting salon, very close to the hotel we used to stay in. The Mona Lisa जो उसमें famous था ना, उसके बाजू में एक होटल था जहाँ मैं we used to stay. एक गली छोड़ के एक छोटा सा barber shop था उधर, मतलब एक and that barber shop was a मतलब एंटीक था, मतलब वो काउबॉय फिल्म होता है ना पहले, वो डोर ऐसा वाला, वुडन डोर ऐसा आता है, एंड अंदर एक छोटा सा एकदम ही एंटीक काइंड ऑफ आउट ऑफ सम वन ऑफ द काउबॉय फिल्म्स, ऐसा एक बार्बर शॉप था. सो इट ऑलवेज रिमेंड माई हेड. तो व्हेन वी वर डूइंग D-Day ना, आई केप्ट थिंकिंग कि यार व्हाट इज इरफान्स कैरेक्टर, व्हाट इज ही डूइंग. तो उसको बार्बर बना दिया. तो माई आइडिया वाज दैट शॉप विल बी, यू नो, समथिंग लाइक दैट काइंड ऑफ शॉप. तो व्हेन आई थॉट ऑफ इट, इमेजिन किया तो कि वो ऐसा शॉप रहेगा कि वहाँ पे वो क्या बोलते हैं करता रहे करके. सो दैट बिकेम एन रेफरेंस. बट अल्टीमेटली व्हाट हैपेंड वाज व्हेन वी रियलाइज कि वेयर it is going to be set in terms of location, real location in Pakistan, where you're supposed to be one of the most posh areas of Pakistan. Carlton Road कुछ तो नाम था. तो it can't have such shop like that, you know. So but the inspiration to make you a barber was that one shop. वो shop देख के बोला इसको बार्बर बनाते हैं, let him make a नाई बना के उसको फिल्म लाते हैं. Funny part is that वो देखा उधर था, imagine किया था मैंने कैलकाटा में one street corner. It eventually got shot in my own neighborhood in Goregaon at that point of time. मेरे बाजू के गली में रोड पे, they one day they're shooting there only. That scene.
Nice. So it basically it's nice because you're saying that you do pick up stuff from real life. You do pick up. You get inspired from.
Many I like even in London Dreams. Like when London Dreams was being written, I was in Australia in Gold Coast, and because we were doing the prep of Sing is King. तो I was supposed to be there for the prep to discuss with people to write London Dreams. तो वहाँ चल रहा था. तो वहाँ पे मैं एक दुकान था वहाँ पे, जहाँ पे जाके मैं I used to use this falafel का एक दुकान था. So if you watch the film, Ompuri has a falafel का दुकान. He runs a falafel दुकान in London. So ऐसा है. तो you just pick up stuff and you use it here, there, everywhere. Like even characters, I'll tell you this. In Airlift, there's a guy called George.
Yeah, of course.
Was very famous in the film. Mallu guy was a very
the angry guy.
Yeah. So I remember once when the film came out, I had basically some things I had put in. My nephew called me and asked me, "Ye, did you base it on our uncle?" You know, because वैसी बात करता है, which actually what और writing में लाया क्या, you know, तुम writing में लिया, those kind of stuff, and that one bag used to keep on his this thing and all, exactly that, which is subconscious, but when he told me, I realized exactly that's what I had done in that film.
I hope the uncle didn't end up.
I don't think he saw it.
That'll be funny. ये तो मैं हूँ. Yeah, that's nice. If you look back, I mean, you've worked with some of the biggest actors. Who do you say that, you know, probably an artist who justified your writing? Like, I thought of this character, for example, and this actor played this bang, or actress, whoever.
Many of them, I think.
Just to name a few that come to your mind.
I think when I see the film, like London Dream, Namaste London, for matter of fact, Katrina, we didn't think, you know,
Yeah.
she actually played that role and she looked the role. Right? She was, I think that is one of her best performances. So I think she did justice to the role that she was meant to play in that film. Akshay also. But then I was new. For me, like Akshay Kumar is big star. So, oh, okay. But when Katrina played that, for me that was exactly the way I written it. Because she was I knew this is being played by Akshay. ये तो मतलब बंद मुट्ठी था, you know, like Katrina at that point of time. She had not done, I think she had done one film or something, one or two films. So that was, others, but many are. I mean, Rishi Kapoor in D-Day, you know, complete a revelation.
Absolutely.
In fact, even Arjun in D-Day, revelation.
By far, D-Day is one of my all-time favorite films across.
It's ironical. The fact is that when I was a journalist and I used to do interviews and all those stuff, I had met Nikhil then he was doing Kal Ho Now. I had no idea of film coming to films. So Nikhil को मिला था मैंने and Nikhil had told me at that time, when you know what, मुझे actually ये नहीं करना था, मुझे thriller बनाना था. My mind is set on a thriller. Interestingly, that thriller ended up we working on together.
Wow.
You know? Yeah, so that's the only thriller he made. Till that time, he had not made a thriller.
Yeah.
The first thriller he made.
Do you ever interact with these actors directly on a one-to-one basis?
Initially, I do. Matlab, when the script is being, it all depends. I mean, initially I know that, like when I did Namaste, Akshay never met only. Usko 2 lines sunaya, the people was happy with it. And actors also changed, na. Us waqt Akshay was okay with, he will just trust the director, 2 lines sun liya, ready ho gaya. I never met him during, matlab, for a narration of Singh is King. People must have told him whatever is there. I don't, not Namaste London. But Airlift used to meet us almost every morning, go through the script, you know, which is the change that happened from there to here. You know, where I remember he used to call us at 6:30 in the morning, 7. One day he called us 5:30 in the morning, you know. So 7:30, 7:30 in the morning he used to call us, and you know we'll all sit together, you know. And
this is on the day of shoot.
No, before. 2-3 months before the shoot. You go through a script in every scene, every this thing.
Yeah, so he's also pretty much gone through this transformation.
So transformation. I think that's when I saw that ये आदमी जो मैंने कभी मिला ही नहीं script के time. Straight away shot it. Now he's actually going through a script, you know, in so much of detail. So that was a surprise for me. He was actually being involved in this. I think that was also he was working with new directors. He had stopped directing with the older ones, so he was a new director. So that was. I remember during the narrations of in the first narration of Airlift, you know, there's a character in that called Korean करके. So आधा तक सुना हो मतलब and he was like every time the Korean came he was like looking at us, you know, क्या है. इंटरव्यू पूछा यार ये कोरियन क्या कर रहा है पिक्चर में. तो बोला सर वो कोरियन नहीं है कुरियन है वो मल्लू सरने में क्रिश्चियन सरने में. हाँ बोलते तभी तो मैं सोचूं कि ये कोरियन क्या कर रहे हैं बेचारे. He kept thinking कोरियन कोई
इराक में कोरियन
क्या कर रहा है. I interact with them earlier, like Bachchan sir, मतलब Bachchan sir act, you know, before Bachchan sir, of course I was there on the sets of Teen, if you know of Teen. Teen is one of among my favorite films of Bachchan, you know, so I think one of the best performances. Unfortunately it got unnoticed and just went off. कोई देखा नहीं उसको. But it's one of his best performances. So I interacted with him during that time, in the sets also. But otherwise, usually just before it. So,
any actor that you look up to who you worked with that? Bachchan sir, of course.
Bachchan sir, Mohanlal, I done with him. So those are great actors. I grew up watching his movies, and they were my like the that. Comfort food kind of होता है ना ऐसा यार bored or something you watch it and you just enjoy and come out of it. So when I think I remember the first time I met him was when he had come to one of my common friends' house, like there's a guy called Goodnight Mohan who used to make films earlier, you know, Gardish सब बनाया था उसने.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. So and I had gone to his house and he opened the door, and I was like, you know, so
Sakshat.
Yeah, so then we kind of kept me couple of times I met him. Then Ramu cast him in Company. So I used to land up at Ramu's set because whenever Mohanlal is shooting, and I'm not somebody who used to really enjoy going to sets otherwise. So Ramu always teased me. Other films I shot, he never turned up. Now that Mohanlal is there, you're coming every day to meet him and all that. I used to see this guy, you know, he used to read the dialogues like a small child, na, exam ke pehle. पढ़ के डायलॉग बोलते हैं, then he'll come and ask me, ठीक है ना, शेयर ले.
But I think I mean I've not worked directly with the South industry or any actors down south, but I have heard that no matter how big they become, that humbleness and simplicity is still there as compared to some of our actors where it becomes slightly intimidating.
I think you know what it is. You can't generalize this with any industry. There are people here also who are extremely like, you will not feel that they are stars when you meet them. You can meet them and you don't feel they are big stars. They will behave so normally. You meet Shah Rukh Khan, you will feel like he's a normal guy. Just completely normal. You will never feel he's a star. The same thing happens with a lot of them. I mean, some of them you are intimidated more than they are. Like when you go to Bachchan sir, you are a little more this thing. Though he will tell, hey Suresh, why are you doing formalities? Eat, no, and all those things. But you are a little more wary of that whole age and the whole aura of those people. So people who are more your kind of age, you still kind of, but you see both sides. I mean, you see people who are more, but I think the more achieved they are, more successful they are, who are much more, they are more humbler than, not always the case, but most of them I've seen are much more better off.
Can you give us a little more insight about your experience with the King Khan?
I'm telling you, I've been working on with something with him on the level of a script, and it's the most amazing experience I'm having in the terms of I never seen an actor who's like this. I mean, who's so involved in the whole writing process. He comes up with his own laptop and he'll sit there and he'll send notes मतलब 15 page ka notes, 20 page ka notes, and he was coming there and he'll not just that, he'll come out, act it out. In this house he'll act it out. He'll गिरेगा, उड़ेगा, सब करेगा. It's great. You are just like amazed, and he'll come up with solutions also. Problems कुछ देगा तो solution भी लेके आएगा वो. इससे कर सकते हैं. और मैं act करके दिखाता हूँ, ऐसे करके दिखाता हूँ. It is, I mean, and it is done with so much of fun. I mean, there is so much in the middle of that. There are a lot of anecdotes will come out. Things that you keep telling you, he'll keep you in splits, saying things. And the पूरा process में ऐसा है कि even I not seen any actor like that. I mean, somebody who's cuts into the whole thing. He's completely going through a script and he's just sitting there making notes and everything. Immediately will भेजेगा, मतलब messages भेजेगा and all those stuff. And मतलब I not seen an actor. You गिरेगा उधर, गिरेगा, act करके दिखाएगा, उठेगा, खड़ा होएगा, सब कुछ करेगा उधर तो ही सामने.
Wow, man!
It is amazing. So it is a great experience. Just watching. I just feel that you are fortunate to just see him do all that. That whole space.
No, just to come to think of it, and it's at the end of the day, it's Shah Rukh Khan. I mean, he can just probably read a script and say, "मैं set पे आ जाऊँगा." And everybody will be okay with that.
So involved, and very humbly. मतलब it's not be that he will be rude to people. He will very humbly will. Even if he doesn't agree with you, he will listen to your whole thing. Then he'll say, "यार हम लोग ऐसे भी कर सकते हैं, ऐसे भी करते हैं." He'll try to bring you to his own point of view. सब कुछ. And lot of sense he will talk. A lot of these big, मतलब what do you say? How he present a big mass hero on screen. Like something I'm learning from him now, because like he has his own fund of how he should be presented also on screen. So those things you learn from. You realize that when you're writing, sometimes you are not written, in that form. So you're like, oh shit, you can. This is what you should need to do to make that scene, much more appealing on a big screen, as a star for his fans and stars and all. Those things you kind of learn when you kind of see these things.
Wow, that's interesting.
Which is much better than somebody telling I don't get it. मतलब मुझे समझ में नहीं. I'm not able to see it. I can't get it. Yeah, somebody will actually go into a scene. वो खुद करेगा, बना के देगा. He'll do 4 variations of that scene.
Wow.
He'll just do 4 variations कि ऐसे भी कर सकते हैं, ऐसे भी कर सकते हैं, ऐसे भी कर सकते हैं. And write his own dialogues. लिख के बोलेगा ये ऐसे dialogue हिंदी में. And he'll do it. So it's amazing. I'm just finding it a truly amazing experience to just interact with.
That's like half a writer and half a director sitting right there.
Yeah. For me, it was a pleasant surprise. I didn't expect. I mean, I met him several times, but and he's great fun to be with. He'll make you laugh and talk and everything. But when you're working and you work like that, it's also another. It's a great thing to do like that.
Yeah, but it's just unheard of. I mean, I'm sure you worked with more bigger stars than I have, but this is unheard of. Where like we get a classic thing कि मजा नहीं आया.
हाँ, मजा नहीं आया. Even a lot of producer directors I don't get it. I'm not able to relate to it or whatever. उसके आगे कुछ नहीं करेगा. मतलब you don't have any solution. Like directors also sometimes I come to directors will say कि I'm not get it. I don't get it. But they don't have a solution. And there are directors who will come with a solution. I don't get it, but if you do it like this, ऐसा हो सकता है. Like most of my directors, I think, like whether Suja or Nikhil and all, they'll come with solutions. ऐसे भी कर सकते हैं. खड़ा भी करेगा कि प्रॉब्लम है और सुरेश ने लिखा है. There are other directors who will not do it also.
So over the years, coming to directors, you said you have chosen to kind of limit yourself to a certain kind of directors you want to work with?
No, I think I'm very lazy and laid back. That's the reason I think, because I never really gone out of that thing. मुझे मिलता है इनके साथ काम करा ना वो ठीक है. Which I think I should have done. Maybe I would have done some other films also. But you know, but I'm so happy doing with. The thing is mostly doing with relationships. I enjoy doing with these guys. I mean, whatever they do, I enjoy doing it with them. You know, so I like Suja and I never feel like work to me. I mean, we might argue, we might fight, and we might eat together. We do everything. It never feels like work. So it's great fun to do it. And the same thing with most of them. You know, so I get along very well with Raja. Raja and I do these things. You know, and or Nikhil for that matter, or Vipul. Like Namaste London was a great writing experience for them. My first big film for me, on my own. You know, big film. And he gave me full support. He told me, "यार तू लिख. मैं थिएटर का आदमी हूँ. जो भी the last two films I did was more theatrical. I want to write a film. तो तू लिख. I'll unlearn." Who tells that? You know, who says that? So I'll unlearn myself. और तू जो लिखा ना उसके बाद I'll do that. That's what he did. You know, that's exactly what he did. That whole process. So it was such a stress-free writing atmosphere. I could write anything, and then he will come to whatever he wants to put into it. You know, those kind of things. Sometimes you don't understand कि क्यों डाला. लेकिन that scene was. I remember in Namaste London he had a scene where there's a rugby match, and at the end of it, after that, the whole rugby match, these Akshay, Katrina, Rishi Kapoor, and I think the woman who played his wife, they are all sitting together around a table, and suddenly Rishi Kapoor bursts out laughing. Nissim bursts out laughing. You know, so it was a scene that he told me. Just put a scene. जब ये लोग सब हंस रहे हैं, ये हंसेगा फिर ये हंसेगा, सब लोग हंस रहे हैं. Then they just kind of and Katrina gets really upset with all of them. Then she also laughing. So when I wrote it, I really didn't understand that scene. जब मैं देखा ना, then you realize कि यार ये director's perspective होता है ना कुछ चीज़ का, तो होता है. That's what happens with films.
But does it happen sometimes vice versa? Like, do you feel that I picked up this film, but why did I pick it up? Like, I should not have
done the film. ऐसा भी हुआ है. बहुत बार हुआ है. दोस्ती भी किया है बहुत सारे पिक्चर जो I would have not done otherwise. Lot of times I get fired by people like Suja. तो क्यों कर रहा है पिक्चर? तू कहते हो मालूम है वो ऐसा होने वाला. बोले यार लेकिन I like those people. You know, I like them. I can't. For me, it's more people. I never looked at their you know records or anything. So I always look at the people I work with. If I like someone, I'll do the film. वो पिक्चर चले ना चले, मेरा फिल्मोग्राफी में आके मेरा फिल्मोग्राफी बिगाड़ दे चले, लेकिन वो I just work with them. So nice. I know a lot of films are done because I like people working with certain people. So I've done so many such films. So that is always the case. So there are many films that I sometimes यार नाम तो निकाल सकूँ क्या? निकाल दो क्या? कैसे लेकिन कैसे बोलूँ?
I probably might know one of them.
Yeah, not many of them. There are 2-3 of them.
No, I know one which we have worked together on. Where you might want to, even I sometimes want to remove my name from IMDb.
But I think I'll tell you, I feel I'm at a point I'm very laid back and too lazy to do work beyond. मेरा उतना ज़्यादा ambition भी नहीं है. So I'm okay, I'm fine. I like this job. I like writing. But I'm not here to become Salim Javed also. I know that I'll not reach that stage also. But I'm enjoying what I do. ठीक है. उससे ज़्यादा I don't think more than that. So as long as you're content with, you know, like I used to be called in Times of India, one guy used to call me Mr. Content. खुश है यार लिखने मिल गया खुश है.
But when you look back, like yes, I was just while I was writing this, I was going back. When you must be looking at your IMDb or profile, there must be some level of like satisfaction or happiness that you've done a lot, and you've done like across. It's not like you've just done a particular type of film. I mean,
it's mixed feelings, यार. When I look at my IMDb, I cringe भी होता है और खुशी भी होता है, दोनों होता है. तो ज़्यादा ये नजर गोड्स वाज क्रिंजी थिंग्स.
The bad ones.
Yeah, the bad ones. मतलब fuck this सब क्यों किया मैंने ये सब चीज़ें, तो those thoughts happen कि यार क्यों किया, नहीं करना चाहिए था. लेकिन ठीक है, those are with people.
तो ऐसे कोई thought आता है कि okay, maybe now you have this thing of I want to make this type of a film. Like even if you take a film name in a Hollywood, Bollywood is fine. Like this is something that I want to write. It's an unfulfilled wish kind of thing.
I don't have that kind of thing because I written most of genres. I even did an animation film. Delhi Safari was an animation which I did. So I written most forms of cinema. I done like action भी किया, comedy किया, थोड़ा छोटा मोटा horror भी किया. All the things I've done. So अभी एक war भी लिखा है kind of thing. So I don't have that feeling कि I want to. But some movies you see ना and you feel like shit यार. I wish I could write something like this. वो हुआ है. Like I seen a Malayalam film called Maheshinte Pradikaram करके. It's about this guy who gets humiliated by another guy, and he decides कि I will take my revenge, and till that I will not wear chappal.
अच्छा.
Fahad Fasil है. Amazing film. And मैं देख के बोला यार such a simple idea.
Yeah.
Such a simple idea. And the whole film is about this guy now training to become that. He learns karate and all those stuff. And whatever. It's not an action film. Full of characters. And I saw that film and I said, shit, yaar, you know.
Yeah.
So it was written by a guy called Shyam Pushkaran karke. Which, you know, I wish I could write something like this.
Yeah.
You know? I don't even know that I have that in me to write it, but देखे लगता है ऐसा कुछ लिखना चाहिए. You know, those kind of things happen. So. Like when you see Lapata Ladies, you know, I feel like this is the kind of film you want to write.
Yeah.
You know, this kind of
simple yet.
Simple, yeah. Where you have nice dialogue.
Yeah. I think वो तो काफी you know miss हो गया. Like when you said I used to follow this Iranian filmmaker called Abbas Kiarostami.
Yeah.
You know, and when you said this one line, I am mesmerized by one of his films. It's a film about, it's a children's film. Okay, it's a mother and child, and they live in the slums, set in Iran. And the story is about how this one kid. He goes to school regular. अकेले जाता है वो चल के 4-5 साल का बच्चा अकेले जाता है school, and he sits and he's very petrified because everyone who doesn't do the homework ना he gets one scale on the hand. तो ये homework नहीं करके आया. तो ये अपने friend को बोलता है कि तू करेगा क्या homework? तो बोलता है हाँ मैं कर लेता हूँ. तो फटाफट वहाँ पे करता है and this guy gets up, school gets over and he comes back home and he realizes that he forgot his book. The whole film is about he wants to get that book back before his mother realizes. The whole film. 1.5 hours. So how he's dreading it in the night, how he's getting up in the morning, then he goes back to school. Now he realizes that friend hasn't come. So he sneaks out of school and then he goes to the friend's house. He realizes वो friend holiday पे चले गए.
Those things actually makes you feel like this is what a simple idea. This is what you as a writer makes you feel like writing those kind of stuff. You know.
But do you think we as a race or as a country we have an audience? I mean, it might be limited, but do we have an audience for films like that still?
Yeah, simple films, there are always an audience. I don't think everybody wants to. See, the idea is you need to get them to theatres. You have to have that theatrical release and you have to have that. See, 12th Fail also does, no? 12th Fail में क्या मतलब as a film, simple small film works, no? It works. I mean, somebody has to promote it. Somebody has to give the people that chance to, like abroad also they can make all these movies.
Yeah.
They do make all these kind of movies. I saw this very simple film. About Robert Redford and Jane Fonda. Jane Fonda. I think it was directed by our Indian director only, Ritesh Batra karke.
Achha.
Where the whole story was about they are both widowers. They are living in the same neighborhood. One day this Jane Fonda comes to him and tells him, Robert Redford, you know what? Can we have a deal? Can we sleep together? Because I can't sleep alone. My husband passed. I can't sleep alone. I'm not used to sleeping alone. Nothing else. That's it. So they start sleeping together because they're used to that feeling of safety and security. What a beautiful idea, you know? That's so beautiful film that was. You know? I forgot the name of that film. What it was? It was Robert Redford and Jane Fonda. Great film. Recent, last 2 years back or something. Great ideas. It's based on a book, I think. So you see these films and you get, you know, kind of feel that these ideas. Like I have seen one film which is, to me, a big game changer for me in my this thing. Though I never done something like that. It's a Malayalam film again, which a lot of my references in Malayalam. So there's a film called Oru Vadakan Veera Gatha karke, which has got Mammootty in it. It's written by one of the Malayalam's biggest writers called M.T. Vasudevan Nair. The story is based on a ballad, a folklore of Kerala, famous folklore of Kerala, which is about this one warrior and guy who cheated him. Called Chadiyan Chandu. Chadiyan is traitor Chandu. So Chandu is a traitor who actually cheated this warrior, legendary warrior, and got him killed. So that's a story. This M.T. Vasudevan Nair, in that film, he flipped this. He made Mammootty's traitor Chandu and the story from his perspective and what made him do it and what happened to him. That was for me an amazing eye opener. You know, shit, you can see this film like this. You can see a film like this also. That, I mean, I can't even explain words what that film was. It won national awards and lots of awards. A very cult film. So you see that a perspective that is different. No? That is a different perspective of looking at things. Somebody's looking at it from the traitor's point of view. And then he made, I think, Blood of Brothers. The same film from the American point of view. I mean, what a genius. You know, because I think somewhere I read that he was divided. कि मैं किसके साइड से बोलूं तो उन्होंने दोनों साइड से बता दिया मतलब imagine यार imagine that. So those are the, like I still don't know what I still want to try out anything that I can do. Anything. I'm clear about what I don't want to do.
Which is what? Please tell us.
No, I don't know. I don't have any. But like some movies, I think I can't do. Like I still feel I can't do horror. I still don't have the confidence to do a horror film. Somebody approached me to do a war film, a big production house. It was again based on the, I think, 1971 war or something, which was the longest. It was a tank battle story, And now my problem was that I couldn't visualize this film in my head. They had a basic story idea. So I kept telling, I don't know how to see this film because tank battles are largely inside the tanks.
Yeah.
Most war films, the story is actually is of a brief period, It's a brief period because utne mein unka heroism hota hai. Baki we are building up the story. We are normal people. They are very normal people. That one moment of heroism is what makes them set apart in that particular. But there's nothing in that this thing for you to see that, no, like in Shershah, how that is. So so now you have to build up that whole story towards that one point. I think, and if it is a whole battle scene, a film about a battle of a tank of a tank commander, and I said I don't know how to see it because tank is the most closed atmosphere. It's not like war. It's a guy sitting in a tank. How much can you dramatically show? I don't know. I said, I don't know how to show this. Even air battle, ठीक है, you can do the planes doing something like Top Gun, but tank में क्या करेगा? पिप्पा बना चुका था, तो बोला वो उसमें हो चुका है वो सब. अभी मैं क्या करूँगा? I don't think I'm equipped to do it. So you know that today I'm more than not wanting to do is more than knowing that I can't do these things. Some of the things I can't do. Those things I know.
But that's very modest of you because not many people. It's one of those things कि हाँ हम तो ये कुछ भी कर सकते हैं. So
शायद lazy हुआ है वो बोला.
नहीं.
Attempt नहीं करना
I think
चाहता हूँ.
it's coming from somebody who realizes that okay, I'll be better at something else, which is a very rare thing because especially in our industry.
I also don't want to do something glorifying a bad guy now. Anymore, like you don't want to do like somebody came to me with a offer of doing somebody was a Hawala racket or something. It was the stories from his perspective, how he's done this. I said I'm not interested.
Yeah. वो अभी थोड़ा हो गया ना, glorifying the antagonist a little.
अच्छा भी नहीं है होता है मतलब unless there is something interesting about that person. I don't want to do that. किया and not always. Sometimes not of friendship, but sometimes very well.
But at least it ends well. I mean, it ends with shoot at a local.
But it was not about but it was not about the gangsters. It was also about the cops. It was more about the cops' point of view. I had met A. Khan at that time. We had done the whole.
No, but you're right. That वो ना एक thin line आ जाता है. That like somewhere for 1 second you start feeling bad for and that's the trouble area. That is that.
And also I don't want to be a real person. I can do a film on a gangster or a hitman which is fictional. वो ठीक है मुझे. But I want to do a real person जिसके पर and glorify someone who is not really required to glorify.
I think one person you wanted to talk about was one of my favorites also is Mr. Kamala Hassan. By far. I mean, I'm telling you, till the 90s, whether it was, I think one of my top favorite films back then was Sagar. I was just mesmerized by all of them and with him, of course.
My thing is that guy is truly a genius. I mean, he writes. He's a great writer.
Sure.
Like if you've seen a movie called Tevar Magan, on which Virasat was remade.
Oh yes,
Virasat.
of course.
Tevar Magan is scripted by him. It's by far one of the best adaptations of Godfather. You'll never realize it when you're watching it. You don't realize it. And if you're not seeing it, you should watch it. Tevar Magan. Virasat is a copy of it, but you should watch Tevar Magan for the performance, the writing. And the guy was an amazing writer. He writes so beautifully. So and so well read. I mean, I had not worked with him, but I interacted with him. I still remember I once met him and I was carrying this book by Groucho Marx, old silent comedy, not silent, this comedy of in the 30s of Hollywood. And I remember he said, you're reading this. On chapter this, he says something about this. Fuck. I mean, it's like,
Shit.
Chapter yaad hai iska. Chapter usme wo hai. And he was there, actually, he was there. So imagine that kind of knowledge, somebody I think is a school dropout also. I mean, who's not, he's self-taught guy. So I mean, and the kind of movies he's done. I mean, if you look at it, like in Abhay, much before Quentin Tarantino did all that animation thing, in his movie, he did that in Abhay.
No, of course, Appu Raja, yaar.
Yeah, Appu Raja.
Appu Raja was done without any VFX at that point. I remember there was a news that he had got hospitalized because he was constantly walking on his knees. Usko hospitalization hua tha for that film. And then of course Chachi 420. He's just like
Like I still remember Tevar Magni, one of my favorite films. One of my favorite films. So I remember Tevar Magni available nahi tha kidhar. I don't think it's there on any OTT also, as far as I know. So I had a the director of Tevar Magni, his name is Bharathan, he was another legend who died. So his wife is that director's daughter is someone I knew because they were distant related. Like they're married to somebody in my family and all. So I told her, listen, I want your dad's film. I can't get it. Then she spoke to her mother, and his mother searched कहाँ से ढूंढ के निकाल के एक
DVD.
CD या DVD कुछ लाके दिया मुझे उसका कॉपी का करके. What a great film that was. Great. Kamal Haasan का तो मतलब amazing those. Yeah. Like I remember like when we did D-Day, there's a scene in that where Shruti is one of the actors in the film, opposite Arjun. Yeah. And there's a scene where she's brutally raped and murdered in that one scene. He came and saw it and he told Nikhil, you have to make it more brutal. He was like, I mean, his own daughter, but he's that actor in him, that whole passion to do that. You have to make it more brutal, more gritty, this whole thing. Wow. So Nikhil was like, yaar, you know, this is what he is telling.
I feel that the focus on writing, which I had said, is also, you know, we keep getting this from producers and platforms and all that, कि किसी को अभी इतना in-depth नहीं चाहिए. You know, 80% it's moved towards the commercial spaces, where I feel that when parallel or independent cinema came, or even when OTT came, a lot of focus went towards writing. That we started opening up scripts and we started saying, okay, let's make, and of course they were also making business. I think somewhere I feel personally, it's going back to square one, where they're saying, yeah, just write it. You know, I have an actor, I have money, let's go make it. I'll make a business out of it. Story koi nahi dekh raha. Like, you know, sometimes you hear, even the last couple of films which are released, I don't want to name them, they're all making 100, 200 crores because of stars and big action sequences or whatever. But everybody is like, where, like, at least give me some story. मुझे कुछ तो बता दो कि ये एक पुलिस वाला है, इसके लाइफ में ये हो रहा है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. मतलब it sometimes looks like one of the influencers said it looks like a series of gags put together. That I had 50 different gags, put them into film, took 3 big actors. But do you also feel the same? That it's
yeah, but I don't think, again, I don't want to generalize it, because I just feel that there are such films also.
No, I'm saying ratio-wise we are moving more towards...
Maybe right now, I think because right now I think everybody is confused. Nobody knows what is working. So people are like trying to play safe. You know, अगर उनको jokes चाहिए तो ठीक और jokes डालो. इनको horror comedy चाहिए, चलो horror comedy बनाते हैं. You know, that's always a phase. You know, you अभी अच्छा इनको war films चाहिए तो चलो शेरशाह आ गया तो और एक that some 10-20 war films being made. All you know, there are इतना तो it's always that whole thing going on. You know कि अच्छा cop film चल गया तो सब हर एक actor एक cop film आएगा. हर actor ने एक cop film किया है. It's like some kind of a vaccination shot होता है ना. So everybody does one cop film, you know, South Indian type. तो वो I think वो चलता रहता है. वो that's I think, but you can't generalize कि यही बन रहा है. Problem is that, you know, others में कोई पैसा डालने तैयार नहीं है. People are not ready to back because they don't know themselves कि ये चलेगी नहीं चलेगी. Like तो I think they have to start investing in smaller films, you know, and look at it in that particular form. And actors also have to start doing it. Actors आ गए ना तो ये सब हो जाएगा. Actors to cut down their fees and do smaller films at smaller fees, you know, can't do that. Then I think those movies also get some kind of this thing. But problem क्या है, actors को भी you can't blame. They have a fan following. Now their fans want them to do this. You start doing this. They say ये क्या है? ये तो नहीं मांगता, हमको तो ये करना मांगता है.
It's a classic chicken and egg story. Classic chicken and egg.
Like I have a friend who is a huge Bachchan fan. Die hard. मतलब बचपन से बच्चन मतलब उसको ये है. You keep grumbling कि why are you guys always doing बच्चन को ऐसा बीमार दिखाता है, उसको बूढ़ा दिखाता है, उसको लाचार दिखाता है, उसको स्टाइल में लेके आओ ना, जैसे रजनीकांत आता है फिल्म में स्टाइल में लेके आओ. मैं बोला यार लेकिन वो तो देख चुका ना, बच्चन खुद नहीं करना चाहता फिल्म से. बच्चन himself wants to do act characters, he wants to do more challenges. लेकिन नहीं यार मजा नहीं आता. कभी उसको बीमार दिखाता है. I want to see बच्चन the star kind of thing. तो लोग ऐसे हैं, fans are like that. Those are hardcore. तो one day I sent this message to बच्चन. सर ये ऐसा बोल रहा है, वो कुछ झंडा वंडा कुछ दिखाया मेरे को, आई emoji.
But you also had a very interesting story, which I don't know if you remember, you told me this once, that over the years, you know, you and Sujoy would take films to Bachchan, not sure whether he would do it. But then he would somewhere find a way कि नहीं ये नहीं मैं एक special appearance कर लेता हूँ या मैं voice over
Maybe sometimes, you know, he loves Sujoy, first of all. Though at one point, like I remember once he had said, मुझे कुछ समझ में नहीं आया, but I'll do the film. तो ऐसे भी times हुआ है, तो when he said, कुछ समझ में नहीं आया, but I'll do the film. So those has happened. But then sometimes he's like somebody who's like wants to work, wants to do it. Like I remember when we did Teen. Teen actually was like a remake, official adaptation of a Korean film. Official adaptation, not कोई copy पे नहीं था, official adaptation था. The Teen was actually the Korean film was about this mother who sets out on a revenge. You know, तो बच्चन को सुना है, बच्चन सर को सुना दिया है स्टोरी सुजॉय ने. बच्चन से बोला करते हैं हम लोग करते हैं. तो मैं बोला लेकिन how do we turn this mother into a grandfather? तो but he was so excited, बोले we'll do this film. तो सुजॉय had once after बच्चन के बोलने का तो बोला इसको ना बोल के आते कि ये नहीं होगा. He came back and called me and told me यार उसको तो करना है, we have to do this film. So then we wrote it with him as you know, and he put his life into that role. I think it's criminally बोलता ना क्या बोलता है underappreciated or unknown. That film is so beautifully he's acted in that film, so brilliant he's acted in that film. I remember Nawaz looking at him and saying, "These guys come prepared, yaar."
Yeah.
You know, he was a very competitive actor, Nawaz. Nawaz thought I'll
smash it.
Smash it, and he saw Bachchan. He was like, "Shit, man, these guys come prepared." Like that Drew, pura mustache. People said he will not take off his goatee. He to move that. Amazing. So he will go out of his way to do something. You know? Like at one point of time, I remember that Sujoy wanted me to direct a film. I'm not into directions. I'm not that keen. So I still remember we went and narrated the idea to him. So Bachchan sir looked at me and said, "You want to direct?" Then I told him the idea and he said yes to it. I developed the whole script and then I myself was not convinced with it. But यार मुझे ही नहीं आ रहा. He asked me some questions. I don't know how to answer these questions. So वो लेके फिर हटा दिया था उसको. Then again we went back to with Ribu who had made Teen, and that's when this whole Teen happened. You know the whole thing. So he's somebody who will do it on a person for a person. You know, that old school है ना जो आदमी है वो he likes somebody और जो word दे दिया करने का इसके लिए.
Just like what you were saying, you work for people.
I work for people, yeah, but I can't compare.
No, I'm just saying.
But he is
similarities.
Yeah, but so Bachchan is like that. He will find some reason to do a film. I've seen somebody, he'll find a reason to do a film, not rather than trying to find a reason not to do a film.
Yeah.
Rather, actors will try to find a reason not to do a film.
A lot of people feel that they have a bent of writing, but they're stuck in different jobs. You know, they feel that they have crossed a certain age कि मतलब अभी हम 40-45 के हो गए job कर रहे हैं, but that bent is always there. So do you think that they can still break out and kind of get to it, or it's too late in the day to kind of?
I think there is no age limit for writing. You can write at any point of time.
Yeah.
There are writers who have come into much later in life and wrote great stuff also.
Yeah.
If not in films, even as writers.
Yeah.
If you look at one of the greatest writers, George R.R. Martin, who wrote Game of Thrones, he did that Game of Thrones much later in age. You know, so writing has no such thing. You can always write, but you have to write. You can't just want to write.
Yeah.
मैं लिखना चाहता हूँ, मेरा time नहीं है. That doesn't work. You have to write. You have to find time to write. And also, unless you write, nobody will know how good you are as a writer.
Yeah.
You know, like I had somebody the other day. I get a lot of writers messaging me and all. One writer told me, look, I have this idea. So I said, मुझे idea सुना के फायदा नहीं, तुम लिखो. Idea अच्छा है नहीं मैं बोलता हूँ, but you have to write it. You can't. Like once one guy called me up and wanted to meet me as a writer, and he told me ये idea है. तो and I said तो आप लिखो ना. मतलब मुझे लिखना है तो मैं लिख लूँगा ना. तू मुझे आगे क्यों ना idea सुना रहा है? तू if you have an idea, write it yourself. You know, don't try to just put an idea and just take credit for that idea. You know, write it yourself.
Yeah.
I think you have to put that effort of writing.
Yeah.
And unless you do that, you can't. If you are writing, you will end up, I think, finding some avenue to it.
And what do you suggest, like for a complete lay person, like, you know, sometimes I think the fear is also कि I might know a story, but I might not know exactly how to write it. So do you reckon that they should do like a basic film course or a screenwriting course which kind of gets them to brush up their skills?
Film writing course will help you get the basics, the whole, the technique of writing. Because there is a craft attached to it. All that I said, and there's a craft attached to how you present the story. how you begin a story, what you need to put, those things you will learn. And that, see again, what it will all come down to is that you will have to watch a lot of films, you will read a lot of scripts. So that, whether you do a course or don't do a course, you have to keep doing that. Watch a lot of movies, read a lot of scripts, so you understand. Read the scripts of movies you've seen, which will make you help you understand कि कैसे लिखा था ये, कैसे लिखा था. Like I remember, when long back when Khamoshi was made, at that time film का कुछ चक्कर नहीं था, लेकिन when Sanjay Bansali made Khamoshi, I had hounded him at that time to show me the script of Khamoshi. कैसे लिखा है, मतलब पूरा half the film is in those. So how did you write the script? Most of it is they don't talk, they all language. So he never showed it to me. But I'm saying, so you kind of get curious, how do you write the script? So I gone back and checked on scripts which I've seen on film. कैसे लिखा है script? So I done that several times. So you have to read those scripts, you have to watch movies. Course will help you broaden your horizon. It will allow you to watch movies, you meet like-minded people, somebody to guide you. So those helps. I didn't do a course, but I think it does help when you want to. It allows you to do something. Like I did a course in journalism because I want to do something in writing, and I never thought I'll end up in films. I went to journalism. But लिखना है, तो उसके लिए that also helped. So it somehow trains you towards certain kind of this thing, like different genres, how you open a film, what is this thing. But a lot of it comes from experience. You have to, a lot of things that you learn that today becomes organic is something that has come through trial and error. करके देखा हुआ है. Like I still remember when you see some movie we have written in the past, hero has 100 problems in the first scene only. But then you realize it doesn't work. You have to focus. You have to focus कि hero का ये problem है. You can't have 10 problems and try to make a film. So you have to learn through courses. You have to learn, but basically you have to write. You have to keep watching. You have to keep reading and keep writing. पहले story लिखो. First write a story. Story को break करते जाओ. तो see expand करते जाओ. That's how you will do it.
Right. Kind of thing. And does it ever happen that you lived with a character or a story so long कि एक deadlock आ जाता है कि अभी मेरा it's like a lock, I can't think of where to go. Do you ever face that challenge ever?
Yeah, sometimes you do. ज़्यादा नहीं हुआ है मेरे साथ because इतना time लगा नहीं कभी. मतलब most of the time the films get made and but there are times when you kind of reach beyond a point you don't know what to do with it. Now you just let it go. Like that usually happens much earlier in the film. इतना लिख दिया बाद में you don't know the story is going somewhere which you realize कि यार अभी ये बनेगा नहीं. What happens is a lot of time ideas sounds great. But idea in a 2-hour film is a big challenge sometimes. वो idea मस्त लगता है कि वो मतलब ना तो फिल्म खींचो कैसे इसको 2 घंटा कैसे खींचो. I'm telling you like that whole film, that you have a guy who says suddenly decides his friend is not talking to him. Now to make a 2-hour film out of it is a challenge, and how to make it gripping, interesting, entertaining is a challenge. So sometimes you write and dead end आ जाता है. मतलब ये आगे क्या करूँ इनका. Sometimes it works. Like in Kahaani, I remember that we when we were writing it at the stage of क्या नाम है उसका, there's a character called Agnes who dies. Was killed by the Bob Vissers का first entry. The story.
The old lady.
The old lady dies and Bob Vissers kills. Namaskar Bob. That I remember that we had when he started writing it, when we were discussing it, तो कोई Bob Vissers नहीं था. Then this Agnes character dies. तो अभी कौन मारता है इसको? That's this whole thing of Bob Vissers came up, and that was more of Sujoy's this genius key that he made that character so lovable, and you don't realize that he is Namaskar, that kind of thing. So he made it more real kind of thing.
No, hats off to you guys because that got made into a film, right?
Yeah.
That character got made into a film.
Yeah. Imagine Kahaani Suja was narrated Kahaani to the whole world. Most of them said no to it. So even actors said no to it. Actors bola that many actors were not able to play that role of the cop, which finally this guy played.
That Bengali
actor played. So a lot of them didn't want to do that role. So somebody, why do you need that character? Somebody had asked that also. क्यों need that character?
At times, do you work on multiple scripts together?
Yeah, I used to work a lot on multiple scripts. बोलते ना initially बहुत भूखा था, सब कुछ करता था. 2-3 फिल्में लिखता था. I used to write a column in some newspaper also. I used to do a comic strip and सब कुछ करता था. अब शायद वो bandwidth नहीं है, वो bandwidth छोटा हो गया है बोलता ना.
No, but that never kind of was an hindrance.
I really like. I like 2-3 things I like. I like working on a couple of subjects at the same time because ये लिखते अगर you get stuck, you can go to something else and think something else and you can work on that. And I like collaborating. A lot of my scripts are collaborations with other writers because I enjoy that whole experience of creatively. I think writing at the end of the day is teamwork. Film is a teamwork. It's not about. So अभी मेरा अकेला ही नाम आना चाहिए ऐसा कुछ मुझे नहीं है. I like the whole fact that you should. I like collaborating with people and working together with people. I'm not very big fan of writers' room physically, but I like working with writers, together.
Again, that's limited to you only, because a lot of writers at your stature or even lower will be like, नहीं boss, मैं अकेले लिखूँगा. My word.
Maybe I feel I am not that talented.
No. It is.
But I really enjoy working with people, because it's great discussing it. You discuss it together. You eat comfort food together and you have challenges. It's great fun. You meet together and you do these things. Then you write and then you come back and you jam together. It's a more fun process than one sitting alone writing it. It's more fun. Like I remember the whole of Airlift we wrote. We used to meet, jam together almost every day, and our comfort food was khichdi. One of the restaurants there. So पूरा Airlift लिखने का टाइम खिचड़ी खाया हम लोगों ने. So that's the process.
Yeah.
So now Sujoy and I writers, our comfort food is one avocado and fried egg sandwich. अरे वो खाएगा चलो ये आज का lunch का ही है.
You're also working on, like, you're open to the idea of working on more series, or you prefer working on films?
See, I don't mind series so much, but I prefer films. I think series takes way too long to get made. And very often, sometimes sometimes they don't get made also.
Yeah.
You are creatively involved in a series, or writing the Bible, ये वो सब लेके ultimately बोलते हैं नहीं बनना है. So that, and it's not even that same as lucrative as a film. Honestly speaking, it's not even as lucrative. तो उतना पैसा भी नहीं आता कि उसमें से निकाल. So I find that whole thing very time consuming. Unless it's my idea and I'm like a baby of mine which I'm carrying and I really want to see it on the screen, which normally is not the case, because I normally write for films. So I normally, unless it's really exciting or something that I feel like, or unless some of these guys are making it. The only time I've done web series when I had friends who are doing it or something. Otherwise I normally avoid.
Yeah, one was with me.
Yeah. So if I like someone, I'll do it. I might do something. So otherwise I'll do it.
That was one of the common names I was telling you we should have pulled out of IMDb, no? I was like, well, I have a name. I want to pull it off.
मैं सोचता ही नहीं उसके बारे में.
मेरे ख्याल से नहीं है वो IMDb नहीं है. तो ये एक joke था ना with Shreyas. I mean, it's slightly off, but so once that show, I'm not taking the name, but once the show got done, for Shreyas and me it was a big one. I mean, in terms of scale, it was our biggest show. So Shreyas was sitting at a coffee shop, and he heard two people discussing the same show. अरे तेरे को पता है वो उसका show है वो. तो इसका तो ऐसा खुश हुआ कि तो he intervened in there. अरे वो ना वो मैंने बनाया. बोला fuck all show. We keep talking about it, like fucking I don't know why I opened my mouth. They looked at the fuck all show. I was just going to tell my friend, मत देखना. Yeah, it was funny. But anyway.
But those things happen. I mean, you can't help it. This is part of life.
So, but today, I'm saying today, maybe not back in the day, but today, do critics bother you?
No, not me. पहले होता था थोड़ा. Some of the critics are my friends also. I know from before also. So they had trashed my film badly also. I felt a little bad at that time. But that has not really affected my friendship with them. Like Rajiv and I are very good friends. Rajiv had trashed almost every film of mine. Rajiv Masandana. But we are friends. We meet up every time. We really have hit it off. But we have known each other from much before that. And we also know, see, a film is a film. It's not a reflection of your IQ or your choices hai.
Yeah.
I mean, you can make this film this way also. You can make film. film में कोई choices लिया रहेगा जो गलत गया रहेगा.
And that person also is doing it at a personal level. It's subjective. That film could have made 300 crores, but it could have got bad reviews, so to say.
And sometimes you also see that somebody might find a fault in this film. The same fault might be in another film, but they will have no problem with that. So you see that also. I've seen that. अच्छा उसमें problem है, इसमें नहीं है. वही problem है दोनों में. तो ठीक है. तो I don't take it that kind of. पहले होता था थोड़ा बहुत. You used to get upset, more upset than more anxious कि यार लोग पढ़ेंगे तो क्या सोचेंगे. That is more. Not that it's going to affect you anyway. But लोग पढ़ेंगे तो क्या सोचेंगे. But you are embarrassed कि यार ये लोग ये सब पढ़ेगा तो मेरे बारे में क्या सोचेगा. धीरे धीरे कोई नहीं कुछ नहीं सोचता. Nobody cares. तो वो fear तो बाद में निकल गया. Or you become thick-skinned. One of those things happens. You don't really bother about.
But sometimes I have seen I
was actually at one point I wanted to do reviews. In my life, because I was a big fan of Khalid Mohammed reviews. Early Khalid Mohammed reviews.
Moment time,
not
absolutely.
later.
Yeah.
पहले का जब I grew up reading Khalid's reviews.
Yeah.
In times
All of us
that
did.
wordplay. तो मुझे बहुत ये था. Then funnily enough, when I got into films is when I got a chance to become critic. So I was offered to be the reviewing job in DNA. तो मैं बोला boss, now I can't do it because अभी I'm doing films. Now if I praise one film of Yashraj, they will say he's trying to get a film with Yashraj, उसके लिए कर रहा है. नहीं अगर if I trash it, they will say उसका है ना ऐसा से कुछ पंगा हुआ है तो उसके लिए कर रहा है. So I don't want to do reviews. मैं कुछ नहीं करूँगा reviews.
No, I was just going to say that back in the day, and good you said Khalid Mohammed. So it was it was just him. And if we had to watch a film, you would open the paper on a Saturday or a Friday and see 5 में से कितना star मिला. That would decide the fate of the film. 2.5 star से कम नहीं जाने का है, 2.5 star के ऊपर जाने का है. They would make or break a film pretty much on the weekend.
But over the period of time, you also realize critics also are human. They also have their personal biases. दिखता है बाद में at point of time. You can't seeing it. So but then you realize कि यार छोड़ो यार अभी. Matter of having your own, getting on with your life than being too bothered about it.
And nowadays you have paid critics, यार मतलब.
Now you don't know मतलब what is genuine, what is really तो why.
अभी तो box office भी पता नहीं चलता genuine है कि नहीं.
हाँ वो भी कुछ पता नहीं.
अभी इतने reviewers डाल रहे Saturday को हाउसफुल में 2 टिकट मिला अंदर जाके पूरा सिनेमा हॉल खाली.
This is a problem with India ना. I think like in Hollywood, you have a figure. You don't dispute that figure. एक ही figure है. फिगर है यहाँ पे 10 फिगर है तो यू डोंट नो which one to actually trust. इसका एक अलग फिगर है, वो उसका अलग फिगर है, उसका अलग फिगर है, तो यू डोंट नो whom to trust actually. तो वहाँ पे एक ही फिगर है ना. वी डोंट एवर डिस्प्यूट ए हॉलीवुड फिगर. यू नो कि वो फिगर है उतना ही है. वी नेवर हियर ऑफ इन्फ्लेटिंग फिल्म का दिस थिंग्स हम लोग कभी सुना नहीं है कम से कम. व्हाई इज इट सो इजी हियर आई डोंट नो. तो लाइक रिव्यूज सी आई थिंक एट वन पॉइंट ऑफ रिव्यूज वेयर also मतलब you are only window to films. To a film क्या है कैसे. I remember one of the reviews, there was a guy in Time magazine, called Richard Collis करके. मेरे लिए he had done a review of Raiders of the Lost Ark, my all-time favorite film. I read that review before I saw the film, and that review was so मतलब it was so beautifully written ना. फिल्म में देख रहा था कि उसने लिखा है कि वो वहाँ पे दस्त उड़ता है तो मैं देख रहा था. It was so informative and so that was a great reviewing, तो which even Khalid used to do initially long back. पहले करता था. I mean if you read his review of Tevar Ramagan and all na, on Arjun and all those kind of movies, he used to do those things.
From your lot of films, which is your favorite?
I don't have any favorite. I mean all I like.
You'll have to face your friends when you say मेरा नाम.
अच्छा मेरा नाम नहीं लिया.
सारे डायरेक्टर का एक ले लो.
I like most of them. I like almost all of them. So because some of them have a pleasant surprise. I enjoyed working all of them. For me the working was a great fun. I enjoyed working.
नहीं generally एक होता है ना like today I mean Shashank Ghosh when we were talking to, I asked him the same question and he said that when he made his first film वैसा भी होता है, for the next 5 years he could not handle watching it, but today he likes it because 20 साल हो गया. Now when you look back and say नहीं यार with that given resources at that era everybody said it's ahead of its time. Now I can watch the film. Now I like it. So he's not really picking, but maybe you like for example if you ask me it's D-Day. For me it's all time. मतलब from a screenwriting perspective I thought it was beautifully written. I mean every character, every background, everything was.
I have many. I mean, I can't pick and choose one film because I think Namaste London was my first film where I was doing it, because नया था मैं, नया था. 2-3 फिल्म लिखा था उसके पहले, लेकिन whatever I learned उसके पहले I had done Salamesh, which was a school for me. Like it was like the Dharma and Yashraj kind of school of because it's Nikhil Advani's film. तो पूरा उसमें जो कुछ लेसन सीखा ना मैंने इसमें यूज किया था. And I had a very stress writing. People बोला तू लिख. तो लिख अपने हिसाब से.
That is important.
So that for me was a great thing. So I really enjoyed writing that film. I still remember that when I wrote that whole film, उसमें वो speech है which is hugely popular. That one patriotic speech of ये India ऐसा है, India वैसा है, India. उस speech में मैं बोला यार I don't know how to write this speech because जो भी लिखूँगा ये पहले देख चुका है. I don't want to write that speech. I don't want to. तो बोला एक काम करते हैं तू बाकी पिक्चर लिख दे उस स्पीच को हम देखते हैं बाद में क्या बनेगा. एंड सर मे बी आई ट्राई टू गेट पीयूष प्रसून जोशी देखता हूँ. वो तो हुआ नहीं. तो एट द एंड ऑफ द फिल्म आई हैड टू राइट दैट स्पीच. तो आई रिमेंबर क्या करूँ मैं स्पीच कैसे लिखूँ. तो एट दैट टाइम उस टाइम पे ये व्हाट्सएप फॉरवर्ड नहीं था ना. वहाँ पे ईमेल में फॉरवर्ड आता था. लोग फ्रेंड्स यूज्ड टू सेंड ईमेल्स फॉरवर्ड्स. उसमें मेरा एक दोस्त ने ईमेल भेजा था विच इज अबाउट इंडिया एट दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम. इंडिया कैसा है, what great and how it had a Sikh prime minister and Muslim president and a Catholic lady who was put the Catholic lady had put a Sikh president, a Sikh person as the prime minister, and a Muslim was the president. So it was a beautiful thought, that communal harmony, and then how India was this. So अच्छा लगा मुझे, which was not what पूरब और पश्चिम का वो सब नहीं था. तो I then did research कि क्या क्या correct है इसमें, देख के then I did a speech on that basis, which was what finally we showed in the film. तो उस टाइम में क्या ना, by the time this film was being written or made or something, lots of rumors कि ये पूरब पश्चिम का रीमेक का सब आ गया था, तो वो भी डाल देते हैं. तो लास्ट में वो पूरा स्पीच बोलता है, लास्ट में अक्षय बोलता है और इंडिया का अगर जानना है तो आपको मैं पूरा पश्चिम की DVD भेज देता हूँ. अच्छा. पुट दैट लाइक इन रेफरेंस जोक. ठीक है, आप लोग ने बोला ना, सब लोग बोल रहे थे पूरा पश्चिम, ठीक है, डाल दिया. सो दैट वाज व्हाट इट वाज. बट आई लाइक कहानी for me was a great this thing, it was something that came out of for us it was a big surprise that it became such a big hit. Like I told you, Sujoy went and told the story to the whole world in terms of production houses, and nobody actually came out and told the twist in the end, and he was very sure the film will do very well. I didn't know, I didn't expect to do it. मैं कभी सोचता नहीं इतना कि हिट होगा क्या फ्लॉप होगा. मैं तो लिख दिया अच्छा है, फिल्म अच्छा बना है. When I saw the film, I really loved the film. मुझे अच्छा लगा. Absolutely. Like D-Day was another film which I thought was greatly made. Airlift. Like the airlift scene, that one the flag comes up. Yeah. You don't realize it. You are written a film screen where the flag comes up. Yeah. And people have said, "Arey, that flag came up." We all cried. Yeah. So when we are writing, you don't realize it. But I think then Raja not had that inkling that public will have this thing. Yeah. But I really didn't think. मेरे उतना vision नहीं था. But when you start, people saying, "यार, they saw that scene and you are." Yeah. People are crying or for me it was when that old guy, that grumpy old guy finally gives in and he just taps Akshay on the back, like through the film he's taking Akshay's case. George वो एक scene में आके बोलता है thank you. That's it. That just does it कि इसको convince कर लिया तुमने वहाँ से भगा के लाया, ठीक है नहीं, इसको खुश किया तुमने, was like a very big thing because you're not expecting it. You think अभी भी गाली दे के जाएगा. But sometimes you also realize when a film is not working. मतलब you can sense it. अगर पहले 10 मिनट में लोग are not getting hooked to the film, you know that. Like I remember when I saw Jhankar, the first time, people were laughing at everything. Yeah. So you know कि film work कर रहा है. मतलब they are laughing at even the jokes we didn't think were the joke. Yeah. भी हंस रहे हो लोग. तो you realize कि film work कर रहा है. And there are times when you realize हम लोग को लगा joke है. But नहीं चल रहा है. कोई नहीं हंस रहा है. कोई हंस नहीं रहा है. तो you realize कि नहीं चल रहा है. मतलब कोई नहीं रहा है. तो you have both kinds of things happening. तो I think that's what filmmaking does, right? It gives you that time to be with each other, like-minded people, creative, and then you create these. Film अच्छे बने, बुरे बने, good film cannot work, bad film might work, but that's a different story. But it's the people that you enjoy. When you look back, do you have a good memories of that film? Forget the success part or the failure part of it. Did you have that good memories of that film? So that was like a lot of films. Even if they're not done well, the people still want to work together, still want to come back together. That is the important thing. Not that कि फिल्म चला नहीं चला अभी नहीं काम करते हैं कभी साथ में नहीं करते. That doesn't happen. Yeah, I agree to that. Yeah, I've seen it multiple times even with my seniors. Yeah, 2-4 film नहीं चला, they are working with the same people only. Because you like those people, you enjoy that film. Yeah. Your favorite pick of films? As writing or for? Ideally, yeah. See, my all-time favorite films are all this thing. Malayalam. No. My all-time favorite film is Raiders of the Lost Ark. In Hollywood. Like that's a film that gave me the thrill and everything about film. That made me actually a film buff in the real sense of the term. That I really looked at films, as a art form and something. Hindi it would be like Sholay. Sholay is my all-time favorite. Then there is Malayalam also. There are other films that in Malayalam also. Like like in Hindi also there is like Jewel Thief, which I think is an amazing script. Okay. In terms of writing, I think it's an amazing script. If you have seen Jewel Thief, you'll remember that the story is about this. Was it Dharmendra? No, Devanand. No. Vijayanand made the film. Vijayanand. Great script, great story. About this one guy who's commissioner's son and he's into diamonds. And one day he meets this brother-sister duo who tells him, "Boss, tum to amar ho." He goes, "Yeah, I'm amar nahi hu." And they keep telling him, "Tu amar ho," and they keep telling him, "Amar hai." And that woman is like completely, because Amar was her lover and all that. And he is slowly sucked into this whole thing of finding out who's Amar is. And the climax, you realize ki Amar koi tha hi nahi, you know, kind of thing. So I'm just giving a spoiler, but it's an old film. So I'm saying it's a beautiful script, you know, it's a beautiful script. And I realized when I saw that film, and I must later I read a book of Robert Ludlum called Bound Identity, which later became film.
Yeah.
But the film and the book are very different.
Achha.
The book is one of my favorites because the book में क्या है, this guy is an amnesiac. उसको कोई गोली मार के पानी में डाला था, उसको उठाते हैं बाहर, and he can't remember who he is. And he realized that people are trying to kill him. And he slowly discovers that he can assassin. मतलब उसका नाम Kane है. And Carlos ने उसको मारने के लिए भेजा आदमी लोगों में. And through the story you realize वो Kane कौन है? He's trying to figure out Kane, मैं Kane हूँ. Slowly realize Kane कोई है ही नहीं. Kane was somebody they created.
That's right.
Out of this guy. So it was like I said, yeah, fuck, long back, Jweldeep did this.
Yeah.
You know, and I wrote about this in Bombay Times once. You know, कि ऐसा है. That writer of Jweldeep, I think K. Narayan करे कोई था, उसने मुझे phone किया. He was so thrilled that I came up with something, and I really want to meet that guy. I never met him, but I thought that was great. Jweldeep was such a great story, you know, the way it was told. No? So I really, Jweldeep is one of my, in scripts, I think thriller scripts. No, that's I think one of my favorite as a writer. It's my yardstick for a thriller.
Nice.
It's got drama, it's got glamour, it's got everything. I like Dawn also. very much.
The original one.
The original Dawn. I really like Dawn that much.
Yeah. Suresh, I think that was a very great and insightful chat from the real insider.
I hope so.
No, absolutely. Thank you for giving us. I think a lot of them out there, you know, the whole purpose is that कि उनको ज़्यादा information मिलता नहीं है, and you know whatever you hear is from a single perspective. You know, the idea is to get it from the insiders. So thank you for sharing your whole life's experience here, and for that you don't get a coffee hamper.
Oh.
You don't get a coffee hamper
without any quiz.
but you get the insider.
पहली बार ऐसा without quiz मिल रहा है.
Without quiz. आप जीत गए the hamper. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Yes.